So, hi everyone. I'm Tito, and I'm postdoc in Tomáš Pluskal lab at the Institute of Organic Chemistry and Biochemistry in Prague. You may have heard about my supervisor Tomáš in the MZMine session as the main guy behind the MZMine2 project. Of course, he's still in the MZMine3 development, but he also runs a lab in Prague that focuses on the biochemistry of plant-specialized metabolites. And today I'll be talking about a little bit of my main project in the lab, but this is also to give you like a practical example of how you can apply all some of the tools you've been learning about this week. I hope this will also give you like some idea for your own research. So in our lab we work on plants. Oh, sorry.
Talking to talk.
Like here?
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So in our lab, we work on plants, and plants are amazing chemists, and they produce just a stunning variety of specialized metabolites, and many of them have actually found a large application in our society. I'm sure everyone here have heard about at least one of the natural products here. You can see in this slide. I mean, we have cocaine there, but also the other ones are pretty popular. And many of these metabolites have also, these natural products have also found application in medicine. For example, we have like artemisinin, which is a drug for the treatment of malaria, which led to the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015. And we have also, for example, paclitaxel, which is one of the most powerful chemotherapeutic drugs, which is used for the treatment of several types of cancer. And our institute in Prague has a long story of drug discovery and development, and almost 28 drugs were discovered and successfully developed, and they reached the market in the last 60 years, which is a pretty good outcome. And as part of the institute, one of the research areas in our lab is the discovery of new bioactive plant natural products that hopefully will lead to the development of new pharmaceuticals. And these are few of the plant genera we study in the lab, and in particular, my project focuses on the Piperaceae plant family, which is the same plant family of the common black pepper. Yeah, so first of all, why are we interested in this plant family? Because it's widely recognized as a rich source of bioactive natural products, and it counts more than 3,500 species, and over 300 alkaloids have been already isolated from this plant family, and have shown like a wide range of biological effects on humans, like analgesic activity, anti-cancer activity, and so on. And these are few examples of piperalkaloids that are undergoing preclinical trials or in vivo testing. And the most striking example is probably Piperlongumine, which is an alkaloid that was first reported back in 2011 to have a highly selective cytotoxic activity against several cancer cell lines. And that was followed by more than 90 follow-up studies, and it's now undergoing preclinical trials for the treatment of glioblastoma. And also, new piperalkaloids have been exhibiting like some interesting bioactivities are being reported pretty regularly every year, which suggests that there is still room for discovery from this large plant family. Okay, so if we now take a look at some of the alkaloids already isolated from this plant family, we can see that they are quite diverse in terms of chemical structures, but also we can easily spot some recurring motifs and building blocks. So here, the concept of molecular networking could potentially apply pretty well. So I know you've already heard about it on Wednesday by Daniel, but since it's something new for many of you here, might be good to go through it all together. And if you have any questions on the conceptual level, just please feel free to ask. Again, the underlying hypothesis is that compounds that have similar chemical structures will produce similar fragmentation spectra. So what molecular networking does is to reorganize the MS2 data into networks where compounds that have produced similar fragmentation spectra, so they will likely have a similar chemical structure will appear as connected nodes in the network. Like in this very simple example, those color molecules will be connected in a cluster in our molecular network, whereas the gray molecule will appear as a singleton in the network. So you can see like as a way to turn your raw data, which are quite hard to explore manually, into something like this, which is already like quite informative and way easier to look at and to explore. This is good if you have only one sample and you want to explore the chemodiversity you detected. But most of the time you have multiple samples and you're interested in looking at the quantitative information, like the distribution that these metabolites had in your sample set. So as Daniel showed you yesterday in the cytoscape session, it would be nice to show something like this. Not look at the nodes as plain nodes, but also visualize them as pie charts. And we'll see that later, that actually can give you more insights in your sample set. And this is what you do with what is called feature-based molecular networking. And I left here like a couple of really nice references in case you're tired of listening at us and you prefer reading it. Okay, so our first idea was to screen for the presence of this already known hyperalkaloids across a set of plant samples and map their distribution across the family using molecular networking, and also see whether they connect to some new unknown metabolites that could potentially represent new undiscovered alkaloids. So we're collaborating with 2 botanical gardens in Prague, and we collected 30 Piperaceae plant samples belonging to different species, and we confirm their identity using DNA barcoding, so we can be sure of the species identity of these plants. Then we profile the metabolite content of the leaves of these plants using untargeted NTMSS metabolomics. And you can see like really simple like ethyl acid extraction, resuspension, and methanol acetonitrile to better match the starting condition of our LC gradient. And for the mass spectrometry analysis, we use data-dependent acquisition. So the same data type of the DOM dataset you're using this week. This is the data processing pipeline. So enzyme entry for the untargeted feature detection, GMPS for the molecular networking, and Sirius for the in silico prediction of chemical structure and compound classes. And then we look at the data using cytoscape. So this is exactly what we've been doing this week. Okay, so this is how one Piper plant sample, the LCMS chromatogram of one plant sample look like in MZ9. And this is how multiple samples, the LCMS chromatograms of multiple samples look like when they overlaid on top of each other using different colors. And you can see that there are several peaks that were found only in one plant or another. And that means that these plants actually have some like quite diverse metabolic profiles, even though they all belong to the same plant family. And this is good because in very simple words, the more diverse the metabolomes, the higher, let's say, the chance of finding something new, some new natural products. Concerning the untargeted feature detection, this is the pipeline I've used for the feature detection. No worries, we won't go into the details of each step. I think you had enough with Robin and Stefan on Tuesday, but you can see that they are like pretty much the same steps we use on Tuesday. And they led to the export of the output files, the MGF file and CSV files for GMPS and Sirius. And just to give you some numbers about how fast MZM Trias got, I was able to run this whole pipeline on these 30 data files in about 2 minutes on my laptop. So this is just to tell you that you no longer need like dedicated processing machines to process these like reasonably small data sets like it was used to be maybe a few years ago. Okay, so let's look at the results. The untargeted feature detection returned over 17,000 features that are now showed as nodes in this molecular network. And among them, less than 5% produce a match against the GMPS spectral libraries, which means that the vast majority of the chemical space actually remain unannotated. So the question now is, where do we start to look at this network from? Like, we need some ways of start exploring our data, right? So as I said, one way to go is to look for already known compounds and see whether they're part of a cluster containing unknown metabolites. And for example, we found Piperlongumine to be part of this quite large cluster of mainly unknown metabolites. And since these nodes are connected, they must share some similarity in their chemical structure. So, and this makes the annotation of the neighboring nodes a way easier. And we were able to propagate annotation quite easily and with minimal manual work. That's pretty cool. And so, yeah, and this way of looking at the data is convenient to discover like some new natural products that has some structural relationship with something that is already known. But with this approach, we would miss all those natural products that don't connect to something that is already known, right? So this is where the in silico prediction from Sirius come into play. In particular, we were interested in the compound class prediction from Canopus, and in our case, over 1,100 features were predicted to be piperidine alkaloids, which is a group of alkaloids that contains the piperidine ring in the chemical structure, like many of the piperalkaloids we are interested in. So you can see that this start to lights up the network and give you new like direction to look at the data and to keep on exploring your network. Okay, so what would make things much more interesting now is to see whether some of these metabolites that we detected actually have some bioactivity potential. So another way of adding some information that is relevant for us to the molecular network is to combine it with some bioactivity data. So what we are working on at the moment is to develop a workflow where we take our plant extracts, we fractionate them using, for example, HPLC, and then we submit these fractions to like a variety of biological assays, like anti-cancer activity, antimicrobial activity, antiviral activity, and so on. And then we can use the readout from the bioassay screening and overlay on the molecular network. So in parallel, we analyze these fractions, we rebuild the molecular network, and then we can, for example, color each node based on the readout that the corresponding fraction obtained in the bioactivity screening. So in this simple example, the red nodes are those whose the corresponding fraction obtained, showed high bioactivity at very low concentration, which is really what we want. The yellow and orange nodes are needed like a little bit higher concentration for show some bioactivity, so still interesting, but not as much. Whereas the gray nodes are probably non-interesting for us because they didn't show bioactivity at a reasonable concentration. And so in this way, we can, let's say, highlight bioactive nodes and clusters across the network and target them for isolation and structural confirmation. I don't have much data to show you about this yet, but I left a reference here where they did something very similar. So you can check it out. And one last thing I wanted to show is how, as I said, how showing the quantitative information over the network can give you some new insight in your sample set. So this is the same molecular network of Piperlongumine you saw before. And this is how it looks like turning into the pie chart view. And we realized that some of the metabolites that potentially belong to the same plant, to the same biosynthetic pathway were actually found with a different interspecies distribution, because here each sample corresponds to a different species for us. So this view actually tells us the interspecies distribution of the detected metabolites. So yeah, as I said, we realized that some of the metabolites that potentially belong to the same biosynthetic pathway showed different interspecies distribution. For example, Piperlongumine was found mainly in Piper fimbulatum, colored in light blue, and this M over Z 304 that was assigned this structure that could potentially be a precursor of Piperlongumine because it's missing that carbonyl group colored in red, was not found in Piper fimbulatum at all. It was found in two different species. So this supports the hypothesis that for this group of alkaloids, the biosynthetic pathway evolved from a common set of precursors and, let's say, spread throughout the family. And what we are working on at the moment is to develop a workflow where we can map these metabolic overlaps across the family using molecular networking, as I showed you. And then we can also map the genetic overlap across the family using RNA sequencing and bioinformatics. And then if we manage to connect these overlaps, this information can assist a lot the biosynthetic origin elucidation of this compound, which is something we're after in our lab. So this is getting probably a little bit off topic, but it was just to show you that by looking at your data from like different angles, you can get like new insights and start generate new hypotheses and get new ideas that you were not maybe even expecting. So yeah, so that's all from my side, and I hope that gave you like a practical example of these new tools you've been learning this week. And yeah.